Today is the day. In just a few hours, the Cleveland Browns will take the field for their first preseason game of the 2021 football season. That means football is close to starting. That means we're so close to it. And to help me preview the game and just talk about training camp so far, I'm going to bring in somebody I bring in often, G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan, also his channel, The Barbershop. G, how you doing today, man?
What's going on, Q? Every shout out to everybody out there that's been rocking with the channel. I'm seeing you out here. Hey, every time I see you, I'm like, oh, he had 10,000. He had 12,000. Wait till this joint get to the season. Salute to you, man. I'm always happy to be on, my brother.
Definitely, man. A lot to talk about when it comes to camp. I want to know, G. Bush, who have you been having your eye on, and who do you think is really going to shine throughout this upcoming preseason? Get some Browns fans excited.
Man, I think two names stand out, and I think rightfully so. I think people. I'll give you two guys as veterans and one that's a rookie. I really think that David Njoku is really going to be about something this year.
Mm.
Um, he got it off to a rocky start with Freddie Kitchens and some with Hugh Jackson. So he didn't really get an opportunity in a lot of those times to show what he was. But now I actually think that he's been markedly better than Austin Hooper during this preseason. We starting to actually see him put it together, and I think it has a lot to do with if you watch some of the films with Jarvis Landry, and you see how Njoku was out there working with these dudes, right, working consistently. So I think he's going to have a lot to say. It's already his contract year. I think he has a way better rapport with Baker than he did in an original first 2 years in the system. So I think he's poised for one. Donovan Peoples-Jones, people have been talking about him like crazy. Like, I was saying it the other day, people saying that he done stepped up. Like I Rashard Higgins is the third receiver every single year at some point, right? And then the next year it'd be like, oh yeah, Hollywood, you know what I'm saying? It's a breakout. And then lo and behold, last year is Cordell Hodge. Now it's Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? He's the third receiver by all accounts. So I'm excited. I mean, he was a dude that had a lot of talent coming out of Michigan. Obviously, Harbaugh's offense didn't work for him, and it don't work for a lot of people. But he was the number one receiver coming out of high school, and so I think that it will be a wise thing to just project and say, if you're a top five big time receiver in high school, you might have a progression where you put it together one year. And so hopefully this is a situation where he could put it together and the Browns might find the gym in the 6th round. And then the next guy, the last guy, I've been saying it a lot. I think you're gonna see a lot of that Togiai. I just like the fact that the defensive line. They're looking for D tackles. You always need depth, but I just like his strength. I like his fundamentals. I just think he got that thing where I wouldn't be surprised if at some point during the year he gets a start, because I just like what he does and what he stands for as far as his technique and what kind of player he is. So those are three names I think is going to really have an opportunity to shine. And so I'm just really wanting to get to see some of the young dudes too.
You bring up that with Togia. It kind of brings me into the second point here. I brought it up a couple of times in some of my videos this week, but the Browns have a really interesting situation where four of the guys that you're going to expect to contribute this year are on 1-year deals. Their contracts are expired after this year, and they're really going to be looking at these young guys. We have not seen much out of Jordan Elliott even in camp. I like what I've seen out of Marvin Wilson, to be honest, but he's an undrafted guy, and Tommy Togiai is there. For the Cleveland Browns, like, how important do you think figuring out what defensive tackles that you have that can step up is going to be? Because, you're not going to be able to re-sign all four of these guys. You're probably not going to be able to re-sign any of these guys that are going to be up after this year. So if that's the case, what do you do in lieu of that?
You have to, I think when you look at it, I think the Browns are thinking one thing. I think with the Clowney move, as well as bringing in Takk McKinley, who we haven't seen at all. I think we haven't seen him with the, leaving for personal reasons, whatever the case may be. I think the thought process was we bring in two guys that we like to fit the athletic mold that we want. They're on 1-year deals. They both seem to be a little injury prone. They both seem to not be sometimes work up to their potential standards. So let's do 2 for 1. We bring those guys in and let them battle it out, see who has the better year with the most upside. And then if you somebody splashes or comes out with 15, 16 sacks, then you have to renegotiate and rethink like, okay, well, we got this. Let's figure out where we can go a lot of places. And the great thing about the 1 year deals is if you do give Tat McKinley or you do give Jadeveon Clowney money, you still have a bunch of rookies and guys on that first contract who you can slide in at defensive tackle and not have to worry about another guy getting to a point where he's all wants 12, 13, 14 million dollars.
Yeah. Speaking of roster positions and where you're going to put people on the roster, have you noticed anybody this year that you feel like might be close to being on the bubble? That might have been somebody we'd assume been on the roster this year. Is there anybody for you specifically that you feel like's on the bubble?
I point to, I would say, 2 people. Hubbard is one, right? They're paying Hubbard a lot of money, right? It's great to have some sort of backup, right? And he can be a swing person that swings either way. He can swing, play tackle, he play some guard, he could do a lot of different things for you. But I mean, how much are you willing to pay a guy like that? And if guys during the preseason get hurt and people need depth on offensive line, do the Browns move him or another piece up front in order to maybe go and get some assets for him for teams that are a little desperate? So I think Hubbard might be one of the guys, and then Phillips, the linebacker from LSU. He's in his 3rd year, and to me, I get a more of a gauge. I know what Mac Wilson is. I know what Taki is. I know what Anthony Walker is, but for a 3rd-round pick and not to be able to understand what are your skill sets. I don't know if he's a great tackler. Is he a great coverage guy? Is he a great blitzer? Can he diagnose? I don't know what he is. It looks like he's just a guy. He look like a Jag right now. So that might be one of the 2 people that I think are on the roster now that I would have naturally assumed would have been shoe-ins to start the season.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of interesting things happening in the defense. Now we know that more than likely, we're lucky if we see probably like 2 quarters of starters on both sides of the ball here in the preseason. So in lieu of that, right, in lieu of the big names not being out there, the Myles Garrett's not being out there, what are you looking forward to being able to watch during these preseason games? And what does G. Bush specifically, what are you going to be tracking during these games?
I want to see basically the young guys and see who, because when you got a bunch of young guys in the mini camps or whatever, and you playing young guys in the preseason, it's a difference between everybody, you doing a awesome job in practice, but you get an opportunity to see what the game field says. And my thing is, I really want to find out which one of these young guys that they brought in your draft class is going to be an impact player. For me, I always like to, if I was a general manager, my philosophy would be every single year, I want a person that I've drafted in the previous class to step up and say, hey, I'm a playmaker for you. And so if you can find one guy a year that steps up, that you can say he's a rotation guy, I can get snaps out of him, maybe get a couple of starts, and some people get injured. That's what I'm looking for. And so when you look at all of the guys like Schwartz, and you got guys, all of their new rookie dudes, I'm looking for seeing who's going to step up and say, hey man, I belong with the big boys. Let me make a couple plays here or there. Because if you think about it, running back position, not going to play. Receivers that we got, pretty much not going to play. So those 2 skill positions, I'm looking for Felton, Schwartz, guys like that. I want to see if one of y'all can really add to the team and bring something different to the table.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting to watch, especially all the young guys. One of the young guy competitions is going to be out there at the corner position. Greedy and Grant are going to be going at it, and they're going to be on the field simultaneously because obviously no Denzel Ward during the preseason. What do you expect to see out of that battle, and who, from what you've seen so far, do you think has the edge of that competition?
You know what? I'll give Greedy Williams credit. Besides the heat stroke situation where he missed a little bit of time, like, with the exhaustion thing, I think for the most part, he's played pretty good in camp. I actually will say that Newsom is really promising too. And nobody has really established themselves as I'm penciling my name in, forget it. This is how well I'm doing, and this is just my spot. I actually think that they're a little head to head in terms of what they are. But I will say this with Greedy Williams. It's a thing where he has experience. He's been in the league. He's played downs before. And I think he's behind the eight ball. Before, I kind of look at his attitude like, oh, well, you know what? Tackling ain't my thing, or I got it sewn up. I'm opposite of Denzel Ward. Now that you've been out here, they drafted corner in the first round. You know what the writing says? That's writing on the wall. They got Troy Hill out there too. So it's like it's make or break for you, man. So he got to leave it all on the field. And I think competition will bring the best out of him if he can stay healthy. But I think he'll play some significant time if he keeps grinding like the way he is.
Yeah, it's going to be somebody who's interesting to watch. Just that battle, who's going to come out on top of it. The linebacking thing, JOK is going to be somebody who's going to be interested to see. I'm really interested to see, is that size going to be an issue for him when it comes to wrapping up these guys? Also, Mac Wilson, right? He's had a great camp. One of the things you always worry about with Mac Wilson, he'll get there. Will he finish it? And that's
Tackles.
been his biggest problem his entire career. So now he gets an opportunity. He looks like he's ready to get there. He's getting there in more control than he used to, but he needs to be able to finish. We're not going to know until he can tackle somebody to the ground, and that's the opportunity to do it. What about from the coaching staff? I know the only person that's really, under a magnifying glass under this coaching staff is the defensive coordinator, Joe Woods. So is there anything that you would want to see just from him? My biggest thing is the communication in the secondary. I want to see that be improved. But anything else you can really gauge from the coaching staff in the preseason?
It's difficult. Joe Woods has been under fire, given some of the stuff he's done in the past with playing a little vanilla and not really switching up looks or bringing pressure or things like that. But to his defense, and then a lot of people even told me this. Well, G. Bush, he really ain't got he ain't got the roster and he ain't got the horses to do it. So if you don't have the horses to do it and you blitzing and doing certain things and trying to be exotic, that's not going to help when you got 23 in the back, that 23 playing safety, right?
Yeah.
So now you get an opportunity to now get everybody on one page. You got time, you can implement stuff. What I want to see is this. Is he confident enough to run some of his stuff that he thinks that I'm going to need week 4 or 5? Is he comfortable enough to at least show us something about what the new scheme looks like, how it goes, even lining up on certain downs and distances? Is he going to give us something in terms of showing us completely or just a little hint of what the defense could be? I don't think they'll show much of that this game, but I think as the preseason goes along, I would be intrigued to see some of that just so we can ramp up and get on pace because the guys haven't even been together as far as the defense is concerned. They've never played together. So I think it does take a little bit on defense of just basically being like, okay, we're going to run this, and it's up to them to stop what we're running. We're not really scared about it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting preseason to see. Only 3 games this year. Make sure you check out the first 2 with me doing a live watch along on my channel. Make sure you subscribe, notified. I have a fun experience lined up for y'all if y'all want to do that. So make sure you check it out. That's today, 6:45. Subscribe, notify, kick it with me. It's going to be a good time. G, thank you for coming on. Let me know where to find you at, man.
Man, as always, man, first of all, shout out. Make sure y'all go. If you're a fan of me and you listen on the radio, shout out. Make sure y'all go out and support Quincy, Carrier. He's one of the best dudes doing it in terms of this Browns content. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at gbush91 on Twitter. You can also download the Odyssey app. My show is every Saturday, 8 to 12. And coming up now, I will be doing the pregame show coming up on Sundays with King Carmen and Anthony Lima. You can catch me down over at the Barley House. We will get the tailgates back going. So come see me. And most of all, subscribe to the YouTube channel and support good Browns content at the Barbershop on YouTube.
Definitely check it out. But G, thank you for coming on. Everybody else, y'all have a great day. Have a good night.